The planet of Zarion was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Its skies shimmered with green and purple clouds, and floating islands drifted slowly above glowing forests. Strange creatures with many eyes and wings walked among the crystal trees. While thousands of species had gathered in the central valley, all eyes were fixed on a giant stone pedestal in the middle. Embedded in the pedestal was an enormous sword. Its blade was covered with glowing runes, and the hilt sparkled with a light that seemed alive. Legend said that the sword held the power to save the galaxy, but no one could lift it. For thousands of years, countless beings had tried, from the strongest giants to the smartest machines, but all failed. The sword refused to budge, and many had walked away disappointed or defeated. The alien girl stood at the edge of the gathering, her eyes wide with worry and hope. She was the last of her line, the rightful heir of her planet, and the sword was meant for her if the wrong being lifted it. The prophecy said disaster could follow around her. The crowd murmured and whispered, each species eager to see who would succeed. Some laughed at the failures, while others looked tense, knowing the stakes were higher than ever. The alien girl could feel the weight of their expectations. Her heart pounded as she waited for someone worthy. Creatures of all sizes stepped forward, trying their luck. First, a giant beast with muscles like mountains stomped the pedestal. It roared loudly and grabbed the sword with both hands. The crowd cheered, thinking this might be the one. But when it pulled, the sword did not move. The beast growled and pushed harder. Sparks flew from the runes, but the sword stayed in place, frustrated. The creature slammed the sword back into the stone and stormed away. Next, a cyborg with glowing eyes and metal arms approached. Its circuits hummed with energy as it calculated the perfect way to lift the sword. It grabbed the hilt and pushed with all its strength. Lights flickered around its body, but still the sword would not budge. The cyborg stepped back, surprised and angry. Some smaller creatures whispered, "Maybe no one can do it," while others shouted, "Try harder." The prophecy must be true. Then came a winged species, elegant and fast. They hovered above the pedestal, trying to use their speed to pull the sword. They pulled and twisted, spinning in the air, but the sword did not move. Even their sharp claws could not touch the power within the blade. The alien girl watched silently, feeling a mix of fear and hope. Could be that the legends were wrong, that no one could lift the sword at all. Suddenly, a hush fell over the valley. The crowd turned to see a human walking slowly toward the pedestal. He was small and fragile compared to giants and cyborgs. His clothes were simple, and he carried no weapons or armor. Yet, something about him made the alien girl's heart beat faster. He walked calmly, without fear, and his eyes were focused on the sword. Whispers spread quickly among the crowd. A human? Are humans even strong enough? They are weak and fragile. They will fail like the rest. The human reached the sword and stopped, standing quietly in front of it. He did not rush or panic. He did not push or pull. He simply looked at the glowing runes as if he could understand them. The alien girl stepped a little closer, curious and hopeful. She felt something unusual, a connection between the human and the sword. Other species in the crowd began to snicker, mocking him, but the human did not move or respond. Then, with careful hands, he touched the hilt, his fingers brushing the glowing runes. The sword shivered slightly, as if testing him. The air around the pedestal seemed to hum, and the floating islands above trembled a little. The alien girl's eyes widened. Could this human really be the one? She thought. For the first time in centuries, someone had touched the sword without it rejecting them. The human smiled slightly, a small confident smile, and the crowd held its breath. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the valley. The glowing runes on the sword shone brighter in the twilight. Each species watched silently, waiting to see what would happen next. The alien girl felt hope rising in her chest. This human might be different. He might have a heart and courage that no other species had. The prophecy might finally come true, and the fate of the galaxy could change forever. As night began to fall, the human stepped back slightly, studying the sword with care. The alien girl knew that this was only the beginning. The real challenges were yet to come, and every species would soon see why a human, so small and unexpected, might be the one to lift the sword. The valley was quiet now, filled with anticipation. The stars above twinkled as if watching, and the sword waited patiently for its chosen one. The next morning, the valley of Zarion was alive with whispers. Excitement and doubt mixed in the air like a storm. Every species looked at the human with suspicion and curiosity. They could not believe that someone so small and fragile might succeed where giants, cyborgs, and ancient creatures had failed. The alien girl watched him closely, her heart beating fast. She sensed something different about this human, something no one else had. The human moved slowly toward the sword, his steps careful, measured, and calm. Unlike the others, he did not rush or push. He did not shout or demand attention. Yet, every step seemed to carry a strange confidence. The crowd fell silent, watching him, unsure whether to cheer or laugh. A massive creature stepped forward, towering above the human. Its scales shimmered like molten metal, and its claws could crush boulders with ease. It looked down at the human and roared, "You are nothing human. You will fail as they all do." Its voice shook the valley, but the human did not flinch. He simply lifted his head and looked the creature in the eyes. The alien girl felt her chest tighten. She had never seen such courage. Even in the strongest warriors, there was something in the human's eyes, a spark, a quiet fire that no one could see before. The crowd murmured again. Some whispered. Maybe the prophecies were right, while others shouted, "Impossible! Humans are weak." The human reached the pedestal. He circled it slowly, studying the glowing runes and symbols. Every creature in the valley held its breath. The sword seemed to respond to his presence, its glow pulsing softly. As he touched the hilt lightly with one hand, a faint vibration ran through the ground. The massive creature tried to pull the sword away, but it would not budge. The human remained steady, his hand on the hilt. The sword seemed to hum, recognizing something in him. A few species gasped, unsure what they were witnessing. The alien girl stepped closer, her heart pounding. She whispered to herself, "Could it be him?" Then a sudden wind swept through the valley, strong and cold. The floating islands above shifted, casting shadows that danced like ghosts. Dark clouds formed in the sky, and lightning flashed across the horizon. The crowd froze, sensing that something unusual was happening. The sword glowed brighter, the runes flickering with light that seemed alive. The human's hand tightened around the hilt, but he did not try to lift it. Instead, he closed his eyes and focused. His mind seemed to reach into the sword, as if speaking silently to it. The alien girl felt a strange warmth in her chest. She could sense a connection forming, a bond between the human and the sword. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. A winged alien from a distant star shot forward, trying to snatch the sword. Its claws were sharp and fast, but the sword pulsed violently, sending out a shockwave that knocked the alien backward. The crowd gasped, realizing that the sword was protecting itself, but only for the human. The human opened his eyes, and the sword shimmered as if alive. The light around it formed shapes and symbols that no one could understand. Shadows danced across the valley, and whispers filled the air, as if the sword was speaking to beings gathered. "Only one can lift me. Only one is worthy." The alien girl's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen the sword react this way before. Many species stepped back, their confidence shaken. The strongest and most powerful among them looked uncertain for the first time. The human stood silently, his gaze steady, as if he knew a secret that no one else did. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared on one of the floating islands, watching everything silently. Its presence felt dangerous, commanding, and cruel. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat. She knew that someone was plotting, someone who did not want a human to succeed. The human did not notice yet, but the shadowy figure's eyes burned like fire, focused on him. The wind grew stronger. The glowing runes on the sword pulsed faster, and the floating islands trembled. Every species could feel the tension. They sensed that the real challenge is just beginning. The human slowly lifted the sword a fraction of an inch, and the valley erupted with gasps. The sword responded only to him, ignoring every other species. The alien girl stepped forward, a mix of fear and hope in her eyes. She whispered, "This is only the beginning. You are the one, aren't you?" The human looked at her briefly, nodding ever so slightly, but his eyes remained on the sword, focused, calm, yet filled with determination. The shadowy figure above narrowed its eyes, plotting the next move. The crowd sensed danger but could not move. They all waited to see if the human could survive. The sword pulsed, glowing brighter than ever, and the first part of the prophecy seemed to begin. The valley was alive with suspense, and every being present knew that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The sun rose over the valley of Zarion, casting long shadows across the glowing forest. The alien girl watched the human stand before the sword, his eyes calm, yet full of determination. Every species in the valley whispered among themselves, wondering if this small human could really succeed. The council, the oldest and wisest aliens, stepped forward, their cloaks glimmering like starlight, and their voices echoing across the valley. Before anyone can claim the sword, the council announced, they must pass the trials of strength, courage, and heart. A hush fell over the valley. The trials were known to be deadly, meant to test the body, mind, and soul of every contender. Giants had fallen, cyborgs had failed, and even ancient dragons had retreated in fear. The alien girl's heart pounded as she realized that the human would face the impossible. The first trial was physical. A river of molten lava stretched across the valley, flowed with fire that burned like the heart of a star. Competitors had to cross using only floating stones and narrow bridges that swayed above the molten flow. Many species hesitated, their pride fighting their fear. The human stepped forward calmly, examining the stones and calculating his steps. The crowd held their breath. Some species whispered mockingly, "A human cannot survive this." The human leaped from stone to stone, carefully balancing, his arms outstretched, his mind focused on each movement. Flames licked at his feet, but he did not panic. He moved faster than some creatures twice his size. The alien girl's eyes widened, hope rising in her chest. "He is different," she whispered, feeling a strange warmth. The crowd gasped as the human reached the other side safely, his heart steady. Yet the real challenges had only begun. The second trial tested the mind. Ancient holograms rose from the ground, forming puzzles and illusions that could confuse even the wisest of beings. Creatures tried to solve them, but the illusions twisted reality, showing their deepest fears and failures. Many ran away, crying or trembling. The human approached slowly, observing each illusion carefully. He did not try to force them, but instead focused on understanding, moving calmly through fear. The alien girl watched, amazed. His mind was sharper than anyone had expected. Then came the third trial, the test of heart. A massive shadow beast emerged from the ground, its eyes glowing red like molten lava, and its voice roaring like thunder. "Only the worthy may touch the sword," it growled. The beast could sense the true nature of anyone who approached. It tested their intentions and courage, crushing those with selfish hearts instantly. Many competitors froze, terrified, but the human stepped forward, unafraid. He did not raise his arms in battle. He simply stood, facing the beast calmly. The shadow beast lunged, testing the human's fear. It created visions of destruction, showing the human's friends, family, and even the alien girl in danger. Many species would have run, screaming, but the human did not flinch. He focused on the well-being of others, his heart steady and pure. The beast circled him, sensing his courage. Then, unexpectedly, it bowed slightly and vanished. A ripple of astonishment went through the valley. The alien girl gasped, "He has passed a heart trial." Suddenly, the shadowy figure from the floating island appeared again, its eyes glowing with fury. It had planned to stop the human from ever reaching the sword. But now, seeing the trials pass, it realized that the human was unlike any being it had ever faced. The council of aliens whispered among themselves, "This human, he might truly be the chosen one." The crowd, once doubtful, now watched with awe. Every species, no matter how proud, began to see that the impossible might be happening. The human leaped from stone to stone, carefully balancing, his arms outstretched, his mind focused on each movement. Flames licked at his feet, but he did not panic. He moved faster than some creatures twice his size. The alien girl's eyes widened, hope rising in her chest. "He is different," she whispered, feeling a strange warmth. The crowd gasped as the human reached the other side safely, his heart steady. Yet the real challenges had only begun. The second trial tested the mind. Ancient holograms rose from the ground, forming puzzles and illusions that could confuse even the wisest of beings. Creatures tried to solve them, but the illusions twisted reality, showing their deepest fears and failures. Many ran away, crying or trembling. The human approached slowly, observing each illusion carefully. He did not try to force them, but instead focused on understanding, moving calmly through fear. The alien girl watched, amazed. His mind was sharper than anyone had expected. Then came the third trial, the test of heart. A massive shadow beast emerged from the ground, its eyes glowing red like molten lava, and its voice roaring like thunder. Only the worthy may touch the sword, it growled. The beast could sense the true nature of anyone who approached. It tested their intentions and courage, crushing those with selfish hearts instantly. Many competitors froze, terrified, but the human stepped forward, unafraid. He did not raise his arms in battle. He simply stood, facing the beast calmly. The shadow beast lunged, testing the human's fear. It created visions of destruction, showing humans friends, family, and even the alien girl in danger. Many species would have run, screaming, but the human did not flinch. He focused on the well-being of others, his heart steady and pure. The beast circled him, sensing his courage. Then, unexpectedly, it bowed slightly and vanished. A ripple of astonishment went through the valley. The alien girl gasped. He has passed a heart trial. Suddenly, the shadowy figure from the floating island appeared again, its eyes glowing with fury. It had planned to stop the human from ever reaching the sword. But now, seeing the trials pass, it realized that the human was unlike any being it had ever faced. The council of aliens whispered among themselves, "This human, he might truly be the chosen one." The crowd, once doubtful, now watched with awe. Every species, no matter how proud, began to see that the impossible might be happening. The human took a deep breath. Looking at the sword again, it shimmered, responding to his presence, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. The alien girl felt her chest tighten. Sensing the moment was approaching, the first step had been taken, but the path ahead was still filled with danger and mystery. The trials had shown his strength, his courage, and his heart, but they had also revealed that forces were gathering against him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretched across the valley, and the glowing runes on the sword shone brighter than ever. The human stood, his hand near the hilt, ready to face whatever came next. The alien girl whispered, "This is only the beginning. He is not just a human, he is something more." The valley held its breath. The trials had ended, but the adventure was far from over, and the galaxy would soon witness a power no one had expected. The night over Zarion was heavy and silent, yet the valley was filled with tension. The glowing sword seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, its light spilling across the floating islands. Shadows twisted strangely across the ground, and a cold wind whispered through the trees. The human stood before the sword, calm but alert. Having passed the first 3 trials, he could feel the weight of unseen eyes on him, and a faint unease settled in his chest. Unbeknownst to the crowd, a figure lurked on a distant floating island, hidden in darkness. Its presence was sinister, eyes glowing like molten gold, watching every move of the human. This was Zarek, a powerful alien warlord who had long sought the sword for himself. He had failed the trials before and could not bear to see a human succeed. His pride burned like fire, and a plan of betrayal was forming. As the human approached the pedestal, preparing to touch the sword again, Zarek signaled to a group of rogue species hidden among the crowd. They were skilled, cunning, and willing to do anything to stop him. Slowly, silently, they moved closer, blending in with other competitors, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The alien girl sensed danger, a cold dread running down her spine, but she could not yet see the full threat. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a loud crack echoed through the valley. One of the rogue aliens leapt forward, aiming to push the human away, but the sword pulsed violently, sending out a shockwave that threw the attacker to the ground. The crowd gasped, and whispers spread like wildfire. "The sword protects him. No one else can touch it." Zarek's eyes narrowed, fury burning within. He had underestimated the human and the sword's connection. The human stood his ground, focusing on the sword, but Zarek would not give up. He raised his arm, sending a wave of dark energy toward the pedestal. The ground shook violently, cracks forming where the human had stepped moments before. Trees bent and snapped under the force, and the floating islands above trembled dangerously. The alien girl screamed, "Watch out!" her voice filled with fear and urgency. The human reacted swiftly, dodging the dark energy with surprising agility. He felt a strange warmth in his hand, a connection to the sword, and instinctively raised it, channeling a protective force. A brilliant light erupted from the sword, clashing with Zarek's dark energy. The valley was bathed in blinding radiance, and the shadows retreated. The crowd shielded their eyes, gasping at the spectacle of power no one had seen before. Zarek's face twisted in rage as his attacks failed again and again. The human's calm and pure heart seemed to repel every strike. Every attempt at betrayal was met with an invisible shield, as if the sword itself was defending him. The alien girl stepped closer, her hands trembling. She realized that the human was not just surviving the trials. He was becoming one with the sword. But Zarek was relentless. He summoned creatures from the deepest shadows, monstrous beings that had been imprisoned for centuries. They rose from hidden crevices and descended upon the valley, their claws tearing to the ground, their eyes glowing red with hunger and malice. The crowd panicked, some fleeing, some frozen in fear. The human did not move, standing firm, his hand resting lightly on the sword, as if drawing strength from it. The alien girl felt a surge of hope mixed with terror. "He is different. He can face them, but can he survive, Zarek?" she whispered. Her voice carried on the wind, barely audible, yet it seemed to reach the human, who nodded slightly. Sensing her support, the rogue aliens attacked from every side, yet the human's presence alone seemed to repel them. The sword glowed brighter and brighter, casting protective waves across the valley. Finally, Zarek descended from his floating island, his massive wings cutting through the sky, his eyes locked onto the human, burning with hatred. "No human will claim the sword," he roared, dark energy crackling around him, ready to strike a final blow. The alien girl's heart pounded in terror. She knew that if the human fell now, the valley, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would fall into chaos. The human took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a brief moment, then opened them with determination that cut through the darkness. He did not fight with brute force, but with courage, heart, and the sword's mysterious energy flowing through him. A brilliant beam of light shot from the sword, colliding with Zarek in a blinding explosion. The ground trembled, the floating island shook, and the shadowy figure of Zarek was thrown back, screaming in fury. The valley fell silent, dust and smoke swirling in the air. The rogue species lay defeated, unable to harm the human. The sword floated slightly above the pedestal, glowing gently, its runes now calm. As if recognizing its true wielder, the alien girl ran forward, her eyes wide with wonder and relief. You survive, and you are still here," she whispered. The human looked at her, his expression calm but determined, knowing that the betrayal was only the beginning, and even greater dangers awaited. The valley of Zarion was silent after the battle, yet the air thrummed with power. The sword floated slightly above the pedestal, its glowing runes pulsing like a heartbeat. The human stood before it, his hand still lightly touching the hilt. He could feel an energy unlike anything he had ever known. It was alive, whispering secrets in a language that no species could understand. The alien girl approached cautiously, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. It's responding to you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft of the sword. She felt a strange warmth in the air, as if the sword recognized the human in a way that no one else could. The floating islands above trembled gently, casting long, shifting shadows over the valley. The crowd remained silent, watching in awe, unsure whether to step closer or flee. The sword pulsed brighter with every heartbeat of the human. Light streaked across the sky in brilliant arcs. The massive creatures who had once mocked him now stared, fear and amazement written across their faces. The alien girl noticed something remarkable. The sword seemed to not just respond to strength or courage, but to the human's intentions, his heart, and his compassion. Suddenly, visions erupted from the sword, swirling around the human like living illusions. He saw countless worlds in turmoil, entire civilizations struggling under war and despair. He saw beings crying for help, suffering, and waiting for someone brave enough to intervene. The human's heart ached at the sight, yet he did not waver. Instead, he focused on understanding the sword, letting its energy flow into him. The glowing runes on the blade expanded and twisted, forming symbols and patterns that seemed to tell a story older than the stars themselves. Every species watching gasped. They had never seen magic or technology like this. The sword's energy shot into the sky, creating streaks of light that spread across the floating islands, revealing hidden cities and ancient structures long forgotten. The valley trembled as the sword's power grew, and the human remained steady, his gaze fixed on the glowing hilt. Finally, Zarek descended from his floating island, his massive wings cutting to the sky, his eyes locked onto the human, burning with hatred. "No human will claim the sword," he roared, dark energy crackling around him, ready to strike a final blow. The alien girl's heart pounded in terror. She knew that if the human fell now, the valley, and perhaps the entire galaxy, would fall into chaos. The human took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a brief moment, then opened them with determination that cut through the darkness. He did not fight with brute force, but with courage, heart, and the sword's mysterious energy flowing through him. A brilliant beam of light shot from the sword, colliding with Zarek in a blinding explosion. The ground trembled, the floating island shook, and the shadowy figure of Zarek was thrown back, screaming in fury. The valley fell silent, dust and smoke swirling in the air. The rogue species lay defeated, unable to harm the human. The sword floated slightly above the pedestal, glowing gently, its runes now calm. As if recognizing its true wielder, the alien girl ran forward, her eyes wide with wonder and relief. You survive and you are still here," she whispered. The human looked at her, his expression calm but determined, knowing that the betrayal was only the beginning, and even greater dangers awaited. The valley of Zarion was silent after the battle, yet the air thrummed with power. The sword floated slightly above the pedestal, its glowing runes pulsing like a heartbeat. The human stood before it, his hand still lightly touching the hilt. He could feel an energy unlike anything he had ever known. It was alive, whispering secrets in a language that no species could understand. The alien girl approached cautiously, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. It's responding to you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soften of the sword. She felt a strange warmth in the air, as if the sword recognized the human in a way that no one else could. The floating islands above trembled gently, casting long, shifting shadows over the valley. The crowd remained silent, watching in awe, unsure whether to step closer or flee. The sword pulsed brighter with every heartbeat of the human. Light streaked across the sky in brilliant arcs. The massive creatures who had once mocked him now stared, fear and amazement written across their faces. The alien girl noticed something remarkable. The sword seemed to not just respond to strength or courage, but to the human's intentions, his heart, and his compassion. Suddenly, visions erupted from the sword, swirling around the human like living illusions. He saw countless worlds in turmoil, entire civilizations struggling under war and despair. He saw beings crying for help, suffering, and waiting for someone brave enough to intervene. The human's heart ached at the sight, yet he did not waver. Instead, he focused on understanding the sword, letting its energy flow into him. The glowing runes on the blade expanded and twisted, forming symbols and patterns that seemed to tell a story older than the stars themselves. Every species watching gasped. They had never seen magic or technology like this. The sword's energy shot into the sky, creating streaks of light that spread across the floating islands, revealing hidden cities and ancient structures long forgotten. The valley trembled as the sword's power grew, and the human remained steady, his gaze fixed on the glowing hilt. Zarek, the shadowy warlord, reappeared on a distant floating island, his fury unchecked. He had been watching from afar, plotting his next attack. Yet, even he paused as he saw the sword responding to human, its power far greater than he had imagined. The human was not just touching it. He was becoming one with it. A force older than time itself seemed to flow through him, and Zarek's plans felt suddenly weak and fragile. The alien girl stepped closer, her heart racing. She reached out a hand toward the human, and he turned slightly to meet her gaze. In that moment, the sword's glow seemed to connect both of them, energy rippling through the air. The crowd could feel the pulse, a wave of power that left many trembling. Yet, the human remained calm, his mind and heart steady amidst the chaos. Then, the sword rose higher, hovering entirely in the air, its light forming a protective barrier around the human. Glowing symbols danced across the valley, writing themselves in the sky, and the floating islands shone as if reflecting the sword's energy. The shadow beasts from before had retreated, sensing the power they could not challenge. Even the rogue species that had attacked earlier cowered, unable to approach. A deep, resonant voice echoed in the human's mind, not words, but feelings. "You are the one chosen by the galaxy. You carry the strength of many worlds, the courage of the pure-hearted, and the hope of those who cannot fight." The human nodded, feeling the truth of it. A fire ignited within him, not of anger, but determination. He understood now why no other species could lift the sword. The strength alone was not enough. Only a heart that cared for others, untainted by pride or greed. Zarek's roar echoed from above, shaking the floating islands. He summoned dark energy, intending to strike, but the sword's light expanded, forming a shield that absorbed his attack. The human's hand tightened on the hilt, and the energy of the sword flowed outward, repelling every force that dared approach. The alien girl gasped. "The sword is alive, and it chose you," she whispered, her voice trembling with awe. The crowd watched in stunned silence as a human, and the sword became one. A glow brighter than the twin suns of Zarion enveloped them, illuminating the valley. The floating island seemed to bow slightly under the power, and even the strongest creatures could feel their hearts racing at the sight. This was no longer a simple trial. This was the awakening of a force that could change the galaxy, and only a human could wield it. As night fell, stars shone brightly above, reflecting the sword's energy in the sky. The human lowered his hand slightly, controlling the power, yet every being present knew the balance was delicate. One wrong move could bring chaos. But for now, the sword accepted him, and the prophecy began to unfold. The alien girl stepped forward, placing her hand near his, and the energy flowed between them, a promise of unity and hope. Yet, in the shadows above, Zarek's eyes burned with fury and obsession. He would not give up. He would find a way to claim the sword, and the human knew this was only the beginning. The sword had awakened, and the galaxy's fate now rested in the hands of one human, a force unlike any other, ready to face challenges that no species had ever dreamed of. The valley held its breath, awaiting the next chapter of the story that had just begun. The valley of Zarion was alive with a strange energy. The sword hovered above the pedestal, its runes glowing with a light that seemed to breathe. The human stood beneath it, calm but alert, his hand barely touching the hilt. Yet the force flowing through him was immense, stretching far beyond the valley, reaching every floating island, and even the distant stars above. The alien girl stepped closer, her heart pounding. She extended her hand toward the human, and for a moment, their fingers almost touched. A faint glow connected them, linking their energies in a way no one had seen before. The human felt warmth and courage flow into him, strengthening his connection to the sword. The alien girl could feel it too, a unity that went beyond words, beyond species, beyond fear. The crowd watched in awe, silent as statues, their eyes wide with wonder. Many could feel the change, the energy spreading like a wave across the valley. Even the most proud and powerful species began to realize that this human was unlike any being they'd ever encountered. The sword's glow expanded, pulsing rhythmically, as if sensing their unity. Suddenly, a ripple of energy shot across the valley, revealing visions of distant planets in turmoil, star systems caught in war, entire civilizations struggling for survival. The human's heart ached at the sight, but he did not panic. Instead, he focused on connection with the alien girl, letting her presence guide him. Her compassion, her hope, and her courage flowed into him, creating a shield of energy stronger than any force in the galaxy. Zarek appeared again on a floating island, his eyes burning with fury and obsession. He had been waiting for the right moment to strike, but now he could see the human's growing power, and it filled him with dread. "No human will wield the sword," he roared, summoning dark storms and shadow beasts, ready to descend upon the valley. Yet the human and the alien girl stood together, calm and unwavering, their unity radiating light. The shadow beasts swooped down, their claws and fangs glinting under the sword's light. The crowd gasped. Some species tried to flee, but a human raised his hand, and a wave of energy flowed from the sword, forming a protective dome that repelled the creatures. The alien girl joined him, her hands touching his, and the energy amplified, sending the beast tumbling backward, defeated without a single strike. Zarek's fury grew. He summoned his dark magic, aiming directly at the human and the alien girl. The valley shook violently, cracks forming in the glowing stones beneath them, trees bent and snapped, the floating islands trembling. The crowd clutched each other in terror. Yet the human did not falter, his hand tightened on the sword, his connection with the alien girl growing stronger. The energy between them became a force no one could resist. Then, the sword glowed brighter than ever, the runes pulsing in rhythm with the human's heartbeat. A beam of pure light shot into the sky, forming a protective barrier that spread across the valley, touching every being present. The shadow beast screamed, trying to break through, but the light was unyielding. The alien girl smiled through her fear. She whispered softly, Together we can do this. And the human nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Zarek's dark storm struck the barrier, energy clashing in a blinding explosion. Lightning crackled, winds howled, and the floating island swayed dangerously. Yet the human's calm heart and the alien girl's courage did not waver. They were in perfect harmony, a force of unity that Zarek could not break. He realized that strength alone could not defeat them. Only fear and chaos fueled his power, and now courage and love flowed stronger than his dark energy. The valley trembled under the clash of powers. The crowd could feel their hearts racing, their fear mixing with awe and hope. They had never seen anything like this, a human and an alien girl, together, controlling a force that could rival the very stars. Even the strongest creatures bowed, recognizing a power beyond their understanding. Finally, the light from the sword formed a halo around the human and the alien girl, a sign that the unity of heart had awakened the sword fully. The energy settled, casting a calm glow across the valley. The rogue species and shadow beasts had vanished, driven away by the power. The crowd was silent, each being staring in disbelief. The alien girl stepped closer to human, holding his hand firmly. "You truly are the one," she whispered, and the human smiled softly, understanding that this was only the beginning. Yet, far above on the floating islands, Zarek's eyes burned with hatred and obsession. He had witnessed a unity that no dark magic could break, and he swore vengeance. Plotting in silence, the human and the alien girl had proven their connection, their courage, and their heart. But the galaxy was vast, full of dangers, enemies, and mysteries yet to unfold, and the sword, now fully awakened, awaited its next trials, ready to test its chosen wielder in ways no one had imagined. The valley of Zarion was bathed in a soft, golden glow, yet the tension in the air was palpable. Every being present, every species, every creature, watched the human and the alien girl standing together beneath the hovering sword. The energy between them was almost tangible, flowing outward in waves that made the floating islands tremble gently. Even the strongest giants and the oldest creatures in the valley whispered in awe. "This is beyond anything we have ever seen." The human placed both hands firmly on the hilt of the sword, feeling the energy surge through him, filling his entire body with warmth, power, and understanding. The alien girl's hand rested on his shoulder, her eyes full of trust and hope. Together, they created a bond that no darkness could break. Even the sword seemed to recognize their unity, pulsing brighter and brighter with every heartbeat. Suddenly, the shadowy figure of Zarek appeared on a distant floating island, his eyes glowing red with fury, dark energy crackling around him as he prepared for one final attack. "No human will claim the sword," he roared, sending waves of dark lightning and shadow beasts toward the valley. The crowd gasped in terror. Some species began to flee, but the human and the alien girl did not move, standing firm, their connection unshakable. The sword responded, its glow expanding, forming a protective dome over the valley. The dark energy crashed against the barrier, causing thunderous shock waves that shook the ground. Yet the human's hands remained steady, channeling the sword's energy, controlling it with a calm heart and unyielding courage. The alien girl focused beside him, her presence amplifying the sword's power. Together, they became a force no enemy could withstand. Zarek screamed in rage, his attack growing more violent, summoning monstrous shadows that tore through the sky. But the sword's light cut through them effortlessly, each shadow creature dissolving into sparks of harmless energy. The crowd watched in awe as the human slowly lifted the sword higher, its weight feeling light, almost as if it belonged to him. The alien girl's eyes widened, tears glistening. "He is lifting it," she whispered, barely believing what she saw. With a final surge of energy, the human raised the sword fully above his head. Light exploded from the blade, shooting into the sky, forming arcs that connected every floating island and crystal tree in the valley. The sword's glow revealed hidden cities, ancient relics, and distant planets. Showing its true power, Zarek's dark energy collided with the sword, yet was instantly absorbed, neutralized, and cast back toward him, sending him crashing down in defeat, screaming into the void. The valley fell silent as the light dimmed slightly, leaving a golden shimmer around the sword and its wielder. Every species present stared in disbelief. Some fell to their knees, others raised their hands in awe. The impossible had happened. A human, small, fragile, and underestimated, had lifted the sword, fulfilling the ancient prophecy. The alien girl ran forward, her hands on the human's, smiling with tears streaming down her face. You did it! You saved us all!" The human lowered the sword slowly, feeling its energy settle into him. He looked across the valley, at the gathered species, at the floating islands, at the glowing forest, and then at the alien girl. A smile of quiet determination crossed his face. "This is just the beginning," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of responsibility. Hope and courage. In the distance, Zarek stirred, his eyes burning with hatred. Yet even he knew he could not challenge a human now. The sword had chosen its wielder, and the bond between human and alien girl had proven stronger than any dark magic. Across the valley, species that had once mocked humans now bowed in respect. The impossible perception had changed in a single, breathtaking moment. As night fell over Zarion, stars reflected in the sword's blade. Casting a trail of light across the valley, the human and the alien girl stood together, ready to face the new challenges that awaited. For the sword had awakened, and its power was now in the hands of one brave human, a force that could heal worlds, protect the innocent, and bring balance to a galaxy on the edge of chaos. The crowd erupted in quiet awe and whispered reverence. The prophecy had been fulfilled, yet the story was far from over. For beyond the stars, new threats awaited, and with courage, unity, and the sword, the human and his alien companion were ready to face them. Together, they would shape the future of the galaxy, and no power, no matter how dark, could stop them. And so, the human, once small and underestimated, stood triumphant, the sword shining brilliantly above him. The alien girl by his side, a symbol of hope and unity. The galaxy had witnessed a force unlike any other, and the legend of the human who lifted the sword would echo across the stars forever.